All right, so we've just covered the central nervous system and the cortical lobes. So now we're going to move on to the subcortical structures of the CNS. And we're going to return back to our analogy of the flower, which we've been talking about this whole time. And we're going to look now to the inner parts of the flower, the stigma, the style, all of those individual little parts that have their own sizes, their own functions, their own shapes. But like in a flower, the subcortical structures in the brain take on important functional roles that are necessary for that structure to work properly. And since there are a bunch of different names and functions to keep track of, let me tell you a few stories to help you out. Starting off with this boy named Hal. So Hal loves running. Hal runs track, and his specialty in track is the relay race. But not just any relay race, a special neural relay. Now this is Amos, one of Hal's teammates. Amos is also on the relay team, and he runs the leg after Hal. Now the pair is so coordinated and fast together that their teammates refer to them as a unit, Hal-Amos. Now Hal typically starts the leg at the environment, and Amos finishes the leg at the cortex. And Hal and Amos don't pass just an ordinary baton. Their baton contains sensory information. So this Hal-Amos pair is so quick at getting their baton of sensory information from the environment to the cortex. So that corny analogy, Hal and Amos together make the thalamus. Now I'm going to answer 3 questions for each of these subcortical structures. First, where it is. Second, what it does. And third, a little mnemonic to help you remember the facts. So starting off with where is it? It is smack dab in the center of your brain. You can see it here, this purple structure. There's one thalamus and it's located right in the middle of your brain. What it does, it's commonly referred to as the gateway to the cortex. And it's called this because it's kind of like a little train station right in the center of your brain that most sensory information, so your visual stimuli, your auditory stimuli, smells, things like that, will all have to pass through this structure before it can get rerouted to where it needs to go to the appropriate region of the cortex. And it's kind of known as a relay station for sensory information. Things need to pass through this structure, which is why the mnemonic to help you remember it is Hal and Amos running a relay race, passing sensory information from the environment to the cortex. All right, ready for analogy number 2? Here are some llamas. Now, they may look happy, but they are super hungry and thirsty. All they can think about is getting food and water. I assume llamas eat donuts before they pass out. Now, how are we going to help these llamas get food and water? Well, with a hypodermic needle filled with donuts and water, of course. If we hypo the llamas, then we can regulate their hunger and thirst and return their bodies back to normal. Now, this is kind of corny, but hypo the llamas is hypothalamus. Now, where it is, hypo means below. So this structure is below the thalamus. Now you can see it right here in orange. Is kind of hidden, tucked away, but it's located right below this purple thalamus that we just talked about. Now, what it does is it maintains internal homeostasis. It's kind of like your primary care physician that helps maintain your general well-being. So its goal is to maintain homeostasis or kind of healthy normalcy in your body. It specifically regulates some internal functions, referred to collectively as the 4 Fs. So those include feeding, such as hunger and thirst, like we just saw with our llama friends. It includes fleeing, so running away from your situation if it's a dangerous situation. Fighting or aggression if you need to elevate and escalate a situation. And also fornication, so your sexual behavior as well. And the mnemonic to help you remember this is hypo the llamas in order to maintain their hunger and their thirst. Now, one more thing about the hypothalamus. It regulates these internal functions we talked about via a different body system called the endocrine system. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this system, but just know that the hypothalamus is like the hormone control center. It's responsible for the release of hormones into the bloodstream. So like how your doctor might prescribe tests or shots that a physician's assistant then carries out, The hypothalamus figures out what to do, and then the pituitary gland releases hormones to do that thing. Now, through this endocrine system, these hormones in the bloodstream, things like metabolism and arousal, these can all be regulated.